Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Gag is Pod. I am your girl Charlie Shantae. Thank you for joining me on another episode. And if you're listening to this, like I always say, it must be Friday because new episodes are released on Fridays. And if you have not already, please make sure you subscribe, you download, you subscribe, and you hit that notification bell. So every time a new episode is released, you are one of the first to get it. Make sure you're telling your friends, you're telling your family, because over here we got good information that you can use each and every day. And like I always say, grab your drinks, grab your snack, or whatever it is you do when you listen to this. And we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. Now, y'all know we well into the school year, and you know, we're gonna start talking about some things of how do we get through the school year. Kids are still in that mind frame of summer, which is okay because summer go, you get into a routine. It takes 21 days to form a habit, and they be out of school for 2 months. So whatever they was doing over the summer, they have mastered the art of this. So we got to break them out of that cycle. And so today I'm gonna give y'all some tips and tricks that I utilize that helps new face get through the school year. I've also done this with Marco Polo, so some of these are tried and true. Okay. I feel like my lighting is bad today. I don't know. But we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it do what it do. So the first week of school has already come and gone. And let me tell you, have I laughed a little bit? Yes, I have. Because I in my head, I'd be like, if you would have listened to my episodes on that back to school prep, like in June, end of June, July, some of this could have been avoided. Um, I had a situation. Well, not I had a situation, but I seen a situation where a couple of kids showed up to play sports and they couldn't play sports because they didn't have their physical. It was outdated. And then they went and rushed and got it done, but it had not been approved. So for like a week, they were unable to participate. I told y'all, I think back in one of the episodes about sports physicals and making sure you're getting them done on time, because once the school year starts and you get it done, the approving authority is already moved on to the next sport, different things like that. You can't rush those people when it comes to getting that paperwork done. And I have told y'all that again and again. And just make sure you get the paperwork done on time, even before it's due. I know sometimes you gotta wait for insurance because they'll only cover it for a 365 year and not per se a calendar year. So just make sure that you're getting that done. And I also seen a situation where a kid was not picked up from after school care, and they couldn't get a hold of whoever was supposed to pick this child up because the number was not correct. Then they had to call somebody else, and then that person was like, well, I'm still at work, I don't know if I can get there. Let me try to reach out to the person that's supposed to pick him up so that we can get this taken care of. I also thought about making sure your contact information is up to date in the event that your child gets sick or they don't get picked up. Needs to be able to get in contact with you. These things are important. I talked about these things a month before school started. So I'll link those down. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll link those down in the description box so that you can have access to those. So you can go back and watch those so that you get your tips and tricks, pass those on, and then you'll be ready for next year. All right, so now that we got that out the way, I just wanted to tell y'all about that because I seen it and I was like, oh my God, like I literally have a whole series of episodes dedicated to back to school prep, and dang, I did it in July this year. Do I need to do it in June? Like to allow time for the episodes to circulate? Like, goodness. Um, but one of the first things that I want to talk about today when it comes to academic strategies is picking a good time to do homework. Because it's just like with anything else, you've got to have that good time to do stuff because, like, you think, oh, we can do it at this time or we can do it at this time. Make sure that you're picking a good time to do homework because you want to make sure that your child's in the right mental space. They're not sleepy, they're not drowsy. So, determine what your after school routine is because sometimes after school, kids go to after school care. And I do know that in after school care, They do allot them time for homework, but kids want they with their friends, and they just want to get to the playing and the playing outside and different stuff like that. But like I said, some programs they allow the homework. Well, not they allow, but they do have the opportunity for kids to do their homework. But in the event that your child doesn't do their homework at after school care, determine when you get home what's the appropriate time. I know when a lot of kids get picked up, it's time to go to practice, or they have something else, they don't go directly home. So make sure you determine that. With New Face, I have like a split homework schedule due to him having swim practice after school. So when he gets out of school, only on Mondays, because here they have early release on Mondays. So on Mondays, he's able to do his homework before he goes to swim, because he gets out of school at 2:30. Swim is not until 4:30. So he has about an hour and a half after he gets off the bus to do his homework. Tuesday through Friday, depending on which practice we go to, because if it's storming, we'll go to the later practice. So he may get time after school Tuesday through Friday to do homework. But if not, we typically do that after swim. That's what works best for us. So when he does it for after school, I try to offer a snack, because just depend, and then take a look at what your child's breakfast lunch schedule is, just to see what time they've last ate. I always offer New Face up a snack. One thing he does is he brings a granola bar and an apple or apple slices with him in his lunchbox. And then on his way home from school, he'll eat his granola bar and his apple on the bus. This is also beneficial for him doing homework, but it's also beneficial for when he goes to swim practice as well. He has a little extra energy with him. Once you create what time is a good time for your child to do your homework, create a dedicated homework space. This is very, very important. With New Face gets distracted easy. So I let him at the beginning of the year. I do this every year. I always let the schedule evolve and the workspace evolve into itself. Now, I let him start doing his homework in his room, but I notice when I let him do his homework in his room, he gets distracted. The homework doesn't necessarily get done. So, what I've done is we have a spare room, not a bedroom, but a spare flex room downstairs. He's allowed to go in there, kind of set the scene. There's a fish tank in there, so that can be kind of quieting, um, allow him to kind of focus more and different things like that. It's in the front of the house. It's away from a lot of the noise. It is by the front door, but we don't have people coming in and out, so that's not a big distraction. He also can sit at the kitchen table. We move the placemats and everything that's on the table so that he can have all the space he needs. There's a light overhead. That way, if he's doing his homework later in the evening and it's dark outside, he can flip the light on. He also has the opportunity to do it sitting at the counter. I don't think he personally likes sitting downstairs to do his homework, because he's more visible to me. And then I can see him more, I can hear him more. Listen, I'm just trying to help you get good grades, trying to help you just make it. So if you're visible to me, it'll be like, oh, mom's watching me, so let me kind of stay on track. Now, that's not to say that once he starts doing his homework, I'm like, don't you make a peep. Like, he'll stop, he'll ask me questions. I don't make him sit there and just dredge and just do homework, homework, homework. We stop, we talk, he have a conversation. When his brother comes in, he stops, he has a conversation with his brother, he talks, and then it's back to his homework. So when you're creating this homework space, make sure, like I said, his has one of his spaces has a fish tank in it. I know a lot of kids like music when they do their homework. So music is a good option, not loud, just something low. You can do instrumentals. I find channels on YouTube that say like study music. It gives a nice good flow. I also use them when I am working. It's just a little something to help keep the concentration up and just help keep them mellow. And if you want to take it a step further, which what I have in my workspace is I do essential oils in a diffuser. Find you a nice scent, calming scent like a lavender or bergamot or orange or lemon, just something. They have different blends. They have like focus blends, just something that'll awaken the senses, keep the senses, up in tip top shape, but it's not something that's going to relax you too much to the point where you are going to fall asleep. Sorry, y'all. I got to get me a drink of water. Y'all hear I sound a little hoarse. Tell you what, these allergies in Florida, they real. They real crazy. So I wake up in the morning, sometimes I be sounding like He-Man. But as the day progresses, it gets better. All right. And so this next tip, I feel like is the most important. And I think sometimes as parents, we get lost in the sauce. And I was like this for a while. When New Face would do his homework, I would be like, okay, he's doing his homework. This is my time to shine. This is my time to have me some free time, have me some quiet time, because he's doing his homework and he's not going to disturb me. I realized that although he is doing homework in this time, although I can have free time, quiet time, I also make myself available to assist with any homework questions. Now, these questions may not always be homework per se related. Newface may have the concept and he may be like, so mom, what do you think about this? Or when you were in school, how did you guys learn about this topic? I always make myself available. So when we come home, I make myself available for the first hour. This time it allows me to be right there if he has any questions. And then if we go beyond the hour, I'm still available, but I have transitioned to doing, things for me, the things that I do to unwind when I come home from work. I take a shower, getting my clothes ready for the next day, but I'm still available. So if he has a question, he can still come to me. I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll go assist him with his homework. Now, if you have trouble or you are unable to assist your child with your homework, parents, I cannot stress this enough. Please, 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 please reach out to the teacher. As someone who used to work in education, we will never, ever, I will never, ever, or I never did get upset at a parent that goes, hey, little Johnny didn't understand. I attempted to help. I don't understand. Can you assist little Johnny and can you assist me as well? When parents did this, I would email back. I would tell them, this is how we do it, and then when that child comes to class, I would show that child how to do it as well. And I would never take off points if a child turned in their work late because their parent has emailed me and said they don't understand. I have several times, especially with math. Now, some math I understand, like sixth, seventh, eighth grade math, like up to middle school math, I'm pretty good at it. When it comes to high school, like this calculus and trig and all of that, I've taken those classes for college, but they were not my best subject. So I I couldn't help with some of that stuff. And so I would email the teacher from my Canvas account. I'd be like, hey, Miss Susie Q, New Face is working on this and I didn't quite understand, are you able to assist? This is the problem that we were having trouble with. We understood XYZ problem, but this one we're not quite understanding. Never had an issue with a teacher going, thank you for reaching out. I'll pull New Face to the side. We'll work with it a little bit so we can get the concept. New Face's thing is with math. New Face is very, very smart. And from middle school all the way up, I would even say in elementary, New Face has done good at math, but he has not done good at math at the same time. New Face's problem is he can do math in his head, and I'm talking big numbers. He can do things in his head, and he cannot write it down. Teachers today want to see how you come up with the answers. His big issue where he gets points deducted is because he does not show his work. Teachers have even said, I've asked him a question. He's given me the correct answer off the top of his head, but I need to see that workout. So when he gets points deducted in math, It's not because he can't do the work. It's because he does not show his work. So for over the years, that's one of the things that we have strategically worked on. We have strategically worked on him writing it out step by step so that you can show the teacher, yeah, I know this stuff, but let me write it out so that I can get full credit for these assignments. But parents, never be afraid to reach out to your teachers, your kids' teachers, to ask for help or for understanding on an assignment. Like I said, it'll go a long way. Like New Face missed an assignment a couple of weeks ago because he said he didn't know. And I said, remember, use Canvas, email your teacher. So he ended up doing that. He ended up turning in the work late, and she ended up giving him full credit for it because he had reached out to ask for help. It's just as simple as that. There's never anything to be ashamed of. Teachers are there to help. And I told New Face, I said, look, I said, as a teacher, like last year, he went to Saturday school for different subjects just all around. History, math, not because he needed help, but just so he can get that little bit better understanding. Because kids don't always get the best understanding in class. There may be distractions from the other kids, or they may have fire drills or different stuff like that, assembly, so they may not always get that focus. And I told him, I said, your teachers are going to see that you're coming and you're putting forth the effort in their classes. And I said, that makes a difference to us. And so at the end of the year, I think he had like an 88 in a class, and the teacher rounded it up. He ended up getting an A in the class. I said, because that teacher knew that you were putting forth the effort to get better in that class. I'm not saying that, every teacher is going to do that. And I'm not saying have your child do that to play the system. But if a child is getting up for 6 Saturdays in a row to come to ask questions, to get better understanding, get test taking tips and different stuff like that, if I see that they're two, now, if he had an 81, no, I'm not going to round you up to a 90, but he had like an 88.6 or something, and he ran at him a point and a half. A point and a half is not going to kill anybody. I'm not saying a child should go from a C to an A, but he was merely that close. But that teacher had seen him coming week after week after week to get that extra understanding, and went ahead and boosted him up because he did not have to. Now, in another scenario, it may have been another student in that situation, and he may not have rounded them up. That's at that teacher's discretion. You could say that the teacher was wrong. I mean, to each his own, but it's all and when in doubt, reach out to the teacher. The teacher is going to always understand that what they are there for. They have 24 to 48 hours. They have 24 hours to respond to your message. So that you're going to get a reply. Don't message them at midnight, and like I would say I've had teachers message me back at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And it's like, oh, thank you for reaching out. Here's this, tell Lorenzo to come see me when he gets to class tomorrow. Just as simple as that. And please tell your children that it is okay to go to the teacher to ask for help. The kids might pick and poke and point, but it doesn't matter. Your kids are there to learn. The teachers are there to help them learn, regardless of who is looking at them. Always, when in doubt, ask for help. Because from being in the classroom, I know that the ones that are poking and prodding are the ones who are barely passing the class. But that's neither here nor there. This one is a very, very big one, and I could have actually dedicated a whole episode to this, but y'all would have came for me big time. And I'm gonna always stress this. Academics comes before athletics. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Academics always comes before athletics. And if you don't think athletics is important, I need you to take a look at the new recruiting for these kids. They are looking for students who are academically well as well. Not saying that your child should have straight A's, but your child can't come up in there with like a 2.0, 2.1. We've been looking at colleges and different stuff like that, especially when it comes to swim programs and stuff like that. I can't remember what swim program it was, but it was like a prestigious, it was like a good, really good, like D1 college. And it said that student athletes have to maintain a 1.5 GPA. I'm sorry, what? A 1.5? That is totally unacceptable. That's like on the low end of a C, if I'm not mistaken. That is terrible. Only in each sport, I think only less than 1% of people make it, right? So why are we not telling kids, hey, even though you're good at sports, make sure you focus on your academics as well? Because when sports is no longer there, you're always going to have your degree to fall back on. And you can see numerous of people who have gone to the NBA, have gone to the NFL, have gone back to school and finished their degrees. There's nothing wrong with that, because sports is talent based, and Lord forbid you get an injury or something like that. You want to make sure you have something to fall back on. So I will always stress academics over athletics. And if I feel like New Face needs some time, or I feel like the amount of homework he has is too great for that day, we're not going to practice. Because what good is going to practice when you're not learning? There are too many stories out there where athletes have just been getting passed over year after year after year because they're an athlete, and they go to certain teachers and these teachers pass them. So then when they become in the league and stuff like that, they're getting taken advantage of because they can't read good, they can't act good, they don't know how to advocate for themselves. You see it time and time again. That is not okay. Parents, please do not put athletics over academics. It never works out. It does not work out. Do not set these kids up for failure. Encourage them to get their education over their athletics. Not saying your child is not good, but if they cannot read, write, and do the basic things, what good are they going to be in their adult life? It's not going to be good. So make sure, parents, that you are stressing the importance of academics over athletics. Academics gonna trump athletics every time, okay? In this household it is. So for this week's You Can't Make This Up, y'all, New Face is on semi-punishment already, because he, as y'all know, he's in high school, but he's dually enrolled, and he's dually enrolled through his high school. And the dean of the collegiate academy called me the other day, y'all. She was like, how you doing? I said, I know it ain't good if you calling. She said, I never thought I'd see the day that I would have to call you because our boy is on point. I said, I know. And this goes back to when I was speaking about reaching out to your teachers if you don't understand. He didn't turn in 2 assignments, and I asked him about it. He said, Mom, I didn't understand. And I said, go ahead, reach out to the teacher, still make an effort to try to turn in those assignments. And I told her, I said, thank you for calling me. I appreciate it. So he reached out to the teacher. Teacher explained it to him, and he was able to submit it, and he got credit for it. And so I feel like he's still getting in his algorithm of being back to school. So we have limited electronics now, just not as a punishment, but as a let's keep it on focus. So he doesn't get to take his phone to school, because I do know that he be on that phone all the time at school. He's like, well, Mom, he was like, I need my phone so for my authentication when I log into the computer. I said, I suggest you get a book, a password book. I said, because you're not taking this phone to school for a good little minute. We ain't have phones in school and we survive. Okay? Get your password book, write it down. And so the other day I said, hey, that class that you was telling me you needed your phone for to get the authentication code. I said, you still been able to do work in that class? He was like, yes, ma'am. I said, oh, okay. I said, so you're telling me that you can do work in this class without your cell phone? He was like, yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. Cool. I knew it. Because I said, every kid don't have no cell phone. So I know these teachers ain't creating work for kids with just cell phones. I know that's not happening. So that is my you can't make this up. So I don't even know when he come off punishment. I say he'll come off punishment when I feel he ready to come off punishment. That's just um, what it is. We have come to the end of our episode, and please make sure that you are liking, sharing, and subscribing these episodes. Make sure you're hitting that notification bell on your podcasting app and on YouTube as well, so that when an episode is released, you are one of the first to get it. Episodes are released at 5 a.m. on Friday mornings. So when you wake up and you go to work and you go to take your kids to school on Friday, the episode is there so that you can listen to. I greatly appreciate it. I am your girl, Charlie Shantae. This is the Gag Is Pod. Bye, guys.